It's late summer in the Caribbean, and warmer water is ringing changes for this solitary frogfish. Soon she will start swelling with eggs, and over the coming days, her normally isolated existence will be replaced by an elaborate mating ritual, one of the most unique and fascinating courtships in the sea. There are almost 50 different frogfish species found all around the globe, and their relatives have been known to man for over 2,000 years. Aristotle himself actually described a fishing frog who lured its prey with filaments between its eyes. And they're still here, unchanged, living their alien existence just offshore. So why have most people never even heard of them? Perhaps because frogfish have developed some of the most sophisticated camouflage in nature, specifically for the purpose of being overlooked. They can actually change the color of their skin to match almost any background. If they move to a new area, they take on a completely new appearance. And that appearance can be altered to astonishing degrees. Their favourite den is amongst sponges, and they even have dark spots to mimic the siphon holes the sponge exhales through. Every detail, right down to the sponge's honeycomb interior, is painstakingly reproduced on the frogfish's skin. But just changing colour isn't good enough. They change their texture too. Covered in an array of sandy patches and algae-like growths, a marblemouth frogfish disappears into its surroundings. A white frogfish can walk confidently across the black sand, knowing that her wispy, hair-like appendages make her the perfect mimic of some Goniopora coral. Frogfish camouflage isn't purely defensive. It's a weapon, for these are ambush predators, lurking, unseen, fooling their prey into coming too close. This strange behaviour, affectionately known as yawning, is common to all sorts of different fish. Lionfish, scorpionfish, and no one knows quite why they do it. Perhaps it's a territorial display. They could be warming up in preparation for the hunt, storing elastic energy for the final snap. Or maybe they're just bored. The pregnant female is waiting too. Spawning is approaching, and she is ready for a mate. Her heavy panting helps oxygenate her developing eggs, and her rising pheromone levels are broadcasting her pregnant state to attract males. One is hunting nearby. But the promise of a mate drifts in on the current. Unable to resist, he sets off to find her. Frogfish are not just ambush hunters. They belong to a wider group known as anglerfish. They're fish who fish for other fish. The first spine of their dorsal fin is separate and moves independently. A translucent fishing rod, complete with bait at the tip. Like a skilled fly fisherman, they cast about to entice their prey and draw them in. Attempting to lure this small sand perch, a hairy frogfish wildly wriggles her worm-like bait. Using specially adapted joints to impart horribly convincing motion. The sand perch is not impressed. But a longlure frogfish is having better luck, attracting a school of tiny baitfish. Suddenly, he strikes. Frogfish have the fastest bite in the sea. They can gulp down their prey in only 6/1000ths of a second. Even filmed with a high-speed camera and slowed down 40 times, the attack is still just a blur. The little damselfish never stood a chance. Another yawn gives us a better look at what was happening in that split-second bite. With a complex rearrangement of jawbones and muscles, she expands her mouth to an incredible 12 times its normal size. This huge increase in volume creates a powerful vacuum, inhaling anything that ventures too close. Unlucky that time. But she must keep her energy up. She's nursing thousands of tiny eggs. Stretching out her rod, she jiggles the feathery lure, angling for another meal. Lures come in all shapes and all sizes. Some simple balls of fluff. Others totally unadorned. The most advanced even look like shrimp and come complete with little legs. She glances up at her own lure, and it might be her last look. For the next day, although she keeps fishing, the fleshy tip has gone. Something has taken the bait. Lures will eventually regenerate, but for months she'll have to hunt unaided. Success! The little male has tracked down his hungry partner, and now, for days, he will shadow her every move, staying well hidden, but never far from her side, until the time comes when she is ready to spawn. But what's this? Another male, this one barely 3 centimeters long, has detected the promise of a mate. And he's on his way too. An epic journey for a creature his size. For a while at least, the red male will have her all to himself. Frogfish are normally stationary creatures, their ambush tactics best served by remaining absolutely still. But if their prey moves on, so do they. Most fish have a gas-filled sac that lets them hover and swim gracefully through the water. Frogfish don't. They have stumpy little legs, which are actually fins, only they've developed joints, and instead of carving through the water, they tread like webbed feet. The frogfish walks. Across easy terrain like this, they can actually pick up a reasonable pace, although they look absurd. But if they really want to move, they have one more surprise. Hidden behind their elbows, frogfish have little tubes instead of normal gills, and they open and close. The water they inhale with each breath is trapped by a thin membrane like a one-way valve and forced backwards through the gills. Rhythmically gulping in water and pumping it back, they generate a surprising amount of force. Like little rockets, they fire up, and suddenly they're off, flying through the water by jet propulsion. After following her closely for days, the little red male makes his approach. He twitches with anticipation and thrusts at her tail. Venturing forwards, he begins to press her inflated abdomen. His strangely rough attentions actually encourage the female to spawn. So impatiently, he pushes and pushes, goading her on. But she grows tired of the manhandling and steps out of reach. An eel threatens their intimate moment, and she bristles defensively. Maybe he was just curious, but he was definitely too close for comfort. She's reluctant even to take her eyes from the hole where he lurks. Eventually, she returns to the safe shelter of the sponge, where her mate is still waiting. But there'll be no spawning tonight. By the next evening, the hydrating eggs inside her have swollen even more. She's now so bloated that just getting around becomes an enormous trial. Eventually, she settles back on the same sponge as last night, and her other suitor arrives to wait for his chance. He's trembling with excitement too, but he'll have to temper his enthusiasm. She's not ready tonight either. At last, the sun sets on the long-awaited day. Both males are nearby, and they seem to tolerate each other's presence without competition. They wait. The red one again urges her on, pushing at her swollen belly, while in a crevice beneath her body, his tiny rival hides out of sight. Once they're protected by the veil of full darkness, she signals her readiness by flapping her tail. But she needs help to prise herself from the bottom. And just visible in the shadows beneath her, the tiny male makes a Herculean effort, pushing her enormous body up into the water. Days of tension, and they're over in an instant. The fish rush back to the safety of the seafloor. Replayed more slowly, we can make sense of this frantic union. While the tiny male pushes, the red one belatedly sneaks in from the side. Then, with a violent shake of her body, the ribbon of eggs is released in a rush, and both males frenziedly somersault through the gelatinous mass, releasing gametes to fertilize the eggs, which then drift off with the current into the dark ocean. The ribbon contains many thousands of eggs, but few, if any, will survive. And who fathers each of the tiny embryos is left to chance. Unceremoniously, the female barrels over her mate, his purpose served. Both males collapse, exhausted, in the sand. Now that the eggs are gone, the lucky female immediately regains her trim figure, and she sits with her back to the others, their recent intimacies forgotten. Each fish will now go its separate way. They may never see each other again. The next day, an octopus is out on the prowl. Another top predator, exquisitely evolved, but not usually a threat to a fish her size. Curiosity and apprehension seem to collide, a battle of wills as both creatures stand their ground. But the exhausted frogfish has had enough. She jets off, keen to return to her normal life and its endless, eerie solitude.